Hello, it's Miss Bierman. I'm going to demonstrate adding some adornments or decorations or parts to my puppet. So I've got my puppet here. It's got the mouth already, and I've glued a little tongue in the mouth as well. So some fabric. I cut out a couple eyes. And I decided I wanted to make my puppet a flower, and so I cut out these flower petals. And so my idea is to put the puppet on like this, and then have some flower petals going around the head, and maybe around the chin like this, so it might look kind of like this, like so, and then have the petals go all the way around. So that's my plan. So I think I'll start with doing one of the petals, and I'm going to put it right here. This is where I'm going to sew it on. I can't really have my hand in there while I sew it, so I have to be careful of that. And then I've got my double threaded needle. Now I do need to start from inside the sock and come up to keep the knot on the inside, or I could start, so I'm going to do a whip stitch. So I'm going to start like this. So I've got the knot here. I'm going to trim it, not very far, but just a little bit. Don't trim it next to the knot because it will come undone. And this is where I want to place it. So I'm going to whip stitch it on. I'm going to try to keep that little tail underneath like that. When you whip stitch it on, you can only go through one layer of the sock. If I go through both layers of the sock, I'm going to sew my sock shut, and I don't want that. I don't want it sewn shut. So what I'm doing right now is trying to make sure that I've just got the one layer, and I believe I do. So now as I begin my whip stitch, I'm just going to do that very carefully, like that. I've got one whip stitch. Now, I think actually I can put my hand in here, possibly if I need to, just so I don't sew into the bottom layer of the sock. I'm finding it a little awkward with my hand in there. I'm going to give it a try. There we go. Pulling that through slowly, making sure I don't get any tangles. So there we go. Maybe I'll try and, oh, that feels like that might work a little bit too. So I do have my hand inside the sock now. You have to kind of figure out what works for you. It depends on where you're attaching something, first of all. So I'm attaching this on the lower part of the sock, so it's a little easier for me to have my hand up in there. But really, really important, and you want to check. You don't want to sew that together to the bottom of the sock. So you can see I'm only sewing it on that one part right there. It's not going through both. Okay, and then I'm going to keep going. And just being careful. Now here's what I think I could do next, since the next thing I want to do, it's almost like another tongue, right? The next thing I want to do is add another petal, and do blue right here. I think I can just keep going. I don't need to tie off my my string and start again. I'll see if I can get this lined up. So we've got a lot of different ways to hold it. You have got your whip stitch, and a running stitch too, which I'll demonstrate a little bit with that as well. Okay, I don't want any loops, so I'm gently pulling that through. And now it's my whip stitch. Just detangling it a little bit there, so I don't have loops. All right, and now let's see if I can finish this whip stitch up, and I'll show you how to tie it off. So important that you tie everything off so that your threads don't become loose and unravel and things fall off. So knots are really good. It's really helpful to have the knots hidden so we don't have to see those. My string is kind of tangly today. Trying to get that to cooperate. There we go. All right. So if I want to try to keep the knots on the bottom of things so you don't really see them, we get that last stitch. There we go. So if I push the needle through to the middle of the sock, now you have to be careful not to cut yourself, or sorry, stab yourself or pierce yourself or poke yourself, right? But I pulled it inside the sock. So I'm going to kind of flip the sock inside out so you can see, here's where it is, and you can see that stitching. Now I'm going to cut the thread up near the needle so I have plenty of thread to work with. Remember, you have to tie these together, so if you cut it really short, you won't be able to. So now I'm going to take these and tie them together. Like that, and then pull that so I've got a nice tight knot. Tie it again. Get nice, tight, secure. And again, you cannot cut all the way up here. You want to give it a little tail. If you cut right there, you're probably going to end up with a knot that comes undone. Okay, so now I can see how, hi, I've got 2 petals.